you had mentioned the fact that there's some important pieces of legislation that you're writing, co-writing, working on, hoping to see passed within possibly the next year, related to financial industries. What should voters think when they look at campaign contribution reports like those at opensecrets.org and see that the financial, insurance, real estate sector is your top contributor of late at about $500,000? What should they think?
That are what?
Your top contributor in terms of a sector right now is financial, insurance, and real estate, about $500,000. What should they think when they see numbers like that?
Well, they should look at it and say, gee, who are these contributors and what are their interests? And if they look at it, they'll realize they represent probably every side of every issue there is. So it indicates that I get contributions from people regardless of what position I take on legislation or what I do. So they're not having, obviously, an influence on me. I would think, further, I don't particularly like the methodology by which we fund campaigns, but that's what we're stuck with. That's what the law is, and that's what I comply with. But I think they ought to be satisfied that, obviously, there are people that contribute to me, and knowing full well I'm going to oppose their interests or their positions, and that's a compliment to me.
The Wall Street Journal had a story yesterday about the chairman of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, that he spent a lot of time in Washington lobbying against, and when you mentioned regulatory reform,
against my bill.
Have you met with him?
Oh, sure.
And what are his concerns? What if he represents big banking, which he does, about the biggest, what's he want?
Well, I think that, you know,
Can I ask you, how many times have you met with him?
Oh, my heavens.
A lot.
A dozen. As a matter of fact, probably I could get you, and I can't think of the term of years of how many times we've met, but he obviously is one of the most successful financiers in the country. There's any question about it. These guys on Wall Street get this attitude that their only equal challenger is God. They're very strong, and many of them are very strong people and very bright. And Jamie happens to be very bright. So I don't think he recognizes any limitations of his own personal capacity. He may be correct. Certainly I'm not to his level of brightness, so I can't tell since I'm dealing with somebody superior to myself. But I think his basic position is that little or no restriction will allow him to conquer all worlds, and he wishes to conquer all worlds. And that he may conquer all worlds and not cause any problems, quite frankly. But we've just seen in this last disaster of the last 2 years that there were a hell of a lot of people that were in the contest of capturing all worlds that really fouled up the atmosphere, and those people have caused disasters not only to themselves, not only the institutions they work for, but to the entire society. And we tend to call that systemic risk. And just 14 months ago, I think I met with this group 14 months ago, we sat here, and if you remember, I did not have the most promising idea of where we would be. And at that time, it was a 50-50 chance as to whether we were going to lose not only the American economic system, but the entire world economic system.
Congressman, can I encourage you to get to the
point
of explaining why Jamie Dimon really hates the Kanjorski Amendment?
Yeah, the Kanjorski Amendment empowers the regulators to keep regular vigil on the largest and most interconnected institutions in the financial structure of the country, even if they are healthy at the moment. But if, under certain circumstances, it's determined that they could cause systemic risk to the system, and if that recognition is had, we empower the regulators to take certain actions. And those actions are calibrated from asking them for a plan as to how they intend to correct their risk management, asking them for a plan as to whether they are going to contribute more equity if they determine it's necessary. Everywhere down to the point where they are going to bar them from certain products or certain investments and activities. And if they refuse to cooperate with the regulators, we finally empower the regulators to take them and break them up, put a plan into effect before they cause systemic risk. If we
one of those firms?
Well, Jamie Dimon has one of the largest firms that would come under that power. We're not after Jamie Dimon. He didn't cause the problem right now, and we're certainly in no way trying to affect him. But the best example is my amendment in the law is designed to make sure we never have to bail out anyone again. And the only way you do that is make sure they aren't allowed to grow to the extent or become so interconnected that they put a systemic risk to the entire system. So we put parameters that we can take and identify systemic risk companies, even if they're well operating today, that cause that systemic risk, and get them under cost containment